All right, hi, I'm Varian Brandon. I am a stranded colorwork designer in the soon to be very wet and rainy North Carolina mountains. We are expecting what's left of Hurricane Florence to head this way. In fact, that maps say it's passing quite near us, so we're in for a lot of rain. I think it's been downgraded so that we're not going to get as much wind, but we're going to get a lot of rain. So what do you do when you got a hurricane or what's left of a hurricane heading straight at you? You do a video about knitting. That makes sense to me. Anyway, I just thought I would come and just tell you what's been going on. And I'm not even sure if this video is going to go because I'm having trouble with my microphone. When I first started to do this, I started looking at what kind of it's awful when you have to look at yourself. Sorry. What awful kind of what kind of cameras to look at, and I kept saying, well, do I want to spend $400? Do I want to spend 5 or 7? Then I have to get a microphone and then I have to get all this stuff. And I thought, what do you do? So I started looking up, articles on, so you're going to start video blogging, what kind of, here's the possibility of gear. Well, one of the ways that somebody suggested was actually to use your iPhone. And especially, I had a brand new iPhone 8. It was doing really well. I mean, it's supposed to have a really pretty good camera. Microphone is not great. And I didn't want to be sitting here with the headsets in. So I looked up microphones for an iPhone. So I got this wonderful microphone that's sitting over here, off to the side here. It plugs into the lightning port, where you charge and where you put your headsets in. And for an iPhone, and it has these microphones that you flip both different ways, and they do various things. You can do stereo, you can do monaural, you can do or mono, you can do all sorts of things. And it has a LED lights that tell you if you're pegging, if it goes into the red, you're talking too loud. So, and what it did, depending on how you configure the microphones, it takes the reverb, it takes the hollowness of a microphone in a hard-walled room out. It makes it a little more directional to me. So it really is making it sound pretty good. And I've been using it for quite a while. And, why buy a brand new mic and a whole new gear just because, I mean, if this is working, that's just fine. It does mean that I have to make sure that I edit everything and get it off of my computer so that, because it takes up space. You have to, and you can't leave it on the phone. You can't leave all these videos on the phone. They take space. But that's fine. I can handle that. That's no big deal. But recently I've been getting some, it's like feedback, not feedback. It's called some interference of some sort in the microphone. And I couldn't figure out why it was. And I thought, well, maybe I should just go ahead and get a camera. And maybe I should go ahead and get a real mic. And maybe I should go spend all this money to get all this stuff done. And so I thought my last ditch effort was to call or send a text to the customer help for the people who make the microphone I'm using. And he got back to me and he says, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you doing this? And I came into my little area here and did a little video for this guy with the company that says, okay, here it is with the airplane mode on, and this is where it is with the Wi-Fi turned off, and this is what it is with the Wi-Fi turned on. This is what it is with the light turned on, the light turned off, and just all this sort of stuff. Just trying my best to figure out different ways that would cause some sort of hum, in the microphone all of a sudden, because it's been working just fine. And so I came in here, and then when I listened to it to show him that no matter what I did, it still did this stuff, it wasn't doing anything. So I thought, well, crud, all of a sudden it's fixed. So I put it aside, worked on some other things. I'm trying to do some stuff, and I was working on some other things. And I came back in here to work again today and plugged it in, and it's back again. I have no idea what the problem is. I don't. And I'm not even sure this video is going to go because some of those things I did, the background noise, the background disruption was so loud that, and it's caused by some interference with the microphone, that you couldn't hear me. And if you can't hear me, you're probably better off. No, I'm sorry. Anyway, so what I was going to talk about today is a a couple of things. One, what's on my needles and what I've been busy working on. If you follow me on Instagram, and I'm Varian Brandon, Varian, Brandon on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, I've been posting not an awful lot because it's been kind of frustrating. I chose some colors. I took pictures of colors with the, you know how if you do stranded color, you know how to do this. You take your yarn, you put it in a cluster, you take a black and white photograph of it, and you get the shades of gray will tell you what the contrast is going to be. And if you've got all the same shades of gray, then none of your colors are going to show up against the other ones. That being said, the yarn companies are not making wool or not dyeing it for that to be done. They're just dyeing pretty colors and lovely colors. So it gets to the point that if you're going to use one company's yarn, you kind of have to use, it's a compromise between high contrast and sort of medium contrast and mush. And so I try to option for kind of high to medium contrast, and I knowing that maybe two colors together are going to get mush, but it won't be mush the entire way. At least I hope not. So I'm working on a hat. I do a retreat in the mountains of North Carolina, Martin Luther King weekend at Kanuga Conference Grounds. It's Kanuga. And it's for knitters and quilters. And will be coming up on our 14th year. And I normally do a pattern, and everybody comes and they either get a kit or they bring their own yarn. They bring their own yarn. We talk about color placement of various things. But I just keep doing these hats or cowls or mitts or something, some small project that they can work on during the weekend. And eventually I'm going to get enough of them together and put an ebook of them all together so that anybody who wants all the patterns at once can get that. But this is what I'm working on right now. Let's see if I can't get this to, I can't even see it. Is it going to sit? Yeah, you can kind of see it. The lighting, because it is rainy outside, because we have what's left of Hurricane Florence coming this way, it's rainy outside. So I have this dramatic lighting over here. Can you see this dramatic dark side, light side? But that's just the way it is right now. So anyway, that you can kind of see what that's going to look like. And it's designed to be mostly medium contrast. There's a couple of mushs. I mean, in good light, it's not really mushy, but there are a couple of them in there. But I like it. It's to be not so high contrast. So there's that. And it's going to be just a slouch, my standard slouch hat, which I really like, which you're working on. But the other thing I was going to talk to you about is this pattern right here. This is called Daddy's Request, and I'll tell you about the background of that. Daddy's Request is a sweater, most obviously, that my dad requested many years ago. And I didn't know a lot about gauge. I didn't know a lot about yarn and yarn weight. I was very early on. But since I started knitting, my very first project was a sweater. I knew how to make sweaters. That was my first project. Beware of the people who what is it? It's a line from, God, what is the line from? It's from some science fiction short story about beware of those that eat knowledge too quickly. That's what it is, because you end up with crazy sauce. But so I took Dad into the store with me, into the one little knitting store many years ago. And he picked out a Lopi pattern. If you've heard this story before, bear with me. I don't think I tell it occasionally. A Lopi pattern. Now, if you'll notice, this is before Lopi had DK or fingering, whatever their line is that has the narrow yarn. They had, I think it was like a single ply, not even tight spun, kind of like, I mean, it's fun yarn, but that's how, and they make these big Icelandic sweaters. Well, he liked the yoked, the yoke sweater, because I wanted to do color work. So I said, sure. And I just bought worsted weight yarn and the same needles and didn't even look at gauge, because what is gauge? I don't know what gauge is at that time. And it said, for the size he needed, it said cast on so many stitches. And I was like, okay, fine. And I just started knitting. And I got to the point that when I got up to the underarms, and it's the type of thing where you do everything from the cast on to the underarms for the body, and the cast on the wrist to the underarms for the sleeve. You put them all in one needle. You then, start doing the color work. You have decreases along the way to form it into the neck. And I got to the underarms and held up the sweater, and it wasn't going to fit him. It was barely going to fit me, but, well, not really. It wasn't going to fit him, let's just put it that way. So I was embarrassed and upset and frustrated and put it in the back of a bag in the back of my closet and never mentioned it again. And bless my sweet dad's heart, he never mentioned it either. And for those of you who are Southern, that was not trashing my dad. That was a genuine bless his sweetheart. So years later, I picked it back up. I knew a lot more about it at that point. And I added, I know the dark green was his because dark green was one of his favorite colors. So I added, I think I was graduated from Clemson at the time, so I've got orange, and then I added some red because I love red, and I think I just picked up colors I had along the way, and I finished it for myself. But the name of the sweater is Daddy's Request, because Daddy did at least start it. So my folks at Canugo, as I said, we've been doing this for 14 years. One year they looked at me and said they didn't want to do hats anymore. They wanted to do a sweater. So we did a big sweater. And so I had no idea where this pattern was. I mean, not in the slightest. I don't even know. And I think I think this part in here probably may have been from the original sweater, but I have no idea. And then the rest of this, I just sort of did myself and it just worked in. So, and so I had to redo it and write it up right. Because there's points in here where you have 2 colors per round, and you don't want to do that. So then years later, my brother got married in Ireland, and I had to have a souvenir, because the way you do. And so I got this, this was in County Kerry, and I got this sort of, it's a really sort of a raspberry kind of a red, but it's very heavy. It's a very heavy worsted weight. And I wanted to go ahead, and it's what I had. So, and then I found these other colors to go with it. So believe it or not, this pattern and this pattern, those are the same charts. They're just different colors. And that's probably not a good spot because that's the starting spot. Do you guys know this, right? When you start a yoke sweater, traditionally you start, you can see that's the join right there because it's going to jog just a bit. And it normally starts at your back left. So if I held this out like that, that's the front. This jog is on the back left. So that's where you normally start the round. But that's what this is. So coming soon, if you're interested, I think we're going to do a knit along on my channel with Daddy's Request, this sweater. So what I'm working on right now, let's see, we're in September, probably won't be till the first of the year because I've got some other things I got to finish up. So I'll keep telling you about that. The other thing is what I'm working on right now is I've got a big coat that I'm trying to do a series of videos on construction, kind of a knit along kind of thing. So I'm not knitting along. I'm knitting along on a smaller version of it, just because it's easier to hold up and say this is how all the parts go together. A smaller, not even the same charts, but just a technique sample. Let's put it that way. And I was working along. That's when my microphone decided to just become an idiot. And it caused problems. And I'm not even sure this is going to work, but we'll just see. I think I may have figured out what the problem might be, but I'm not sure. So, and if I get it right, I'll tell you about it later. But, so that's it. I've got to get those videos done. That is a coat called Arion. It's the big kimono coat that you may have seen me be talking about. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, you may have seen me talk about. So I'm working on those, trying to get those edited. I've got teaching at the Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair in October. And then anybody who's interested, the Canuga Knitting and Quilting Retreat, which is in Martin Luther King weekend in January. It's a way to do something for yourself after Christmas. And we have a great time. Mothers and daughters, there is a hummingbird outside the window looking at me. That's pretty funny. Mothers, mothers and daughters, mothers and daughters and daughters-in-law. We've had college roommates that get together and come, and we sit around and knit. And I have 5 classes, 6 classes. So that's Kanuga, and that's kanuga.org. So it's Kanuga. I used to tell my people in Georgia, it's Can with a K and then UGA, University of Georgia, .org, and then KKQ for it's backslash KKQ. But if you get to kanuga.org under conferences, you'll see it. It's in Martin Luther King weekend. So, okay, that's enough for me. Thank you guys. I hope everybody's fine. I'm Varian Brandon once again, and this is Daddy's Request. And you can find me at my website is brandonknittingdesigns.com. I am Varian Brandon on Ravelry, and I am Varian Brandon most every place else, except for Twitter, but everything I do on here goes to Twitter. So thanks, guys. Bye-bye.